Like just now?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Hello. Hey, everyone.
That was going to be awkward.
There's some internet issues going on. Not my fault. It is the fault of the internet provider. So
Subscriptions. Jiu-Jitsu.
Make sure we get everybody in. As you guys are rolling in, why don't you guys let us know where you're coming from? We're up.
we're there.
You good? Yeah.
You're there. You can see
Fine.
us.
Yeah.
Perfect.
All right. I'm trying to figure out where.
Chewy, turn your sound off, as always.
I love the comments. It's Chewy.
Yay. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the show. I'm going to try to get my thing out of the way here.
All right, guys.
We even got guys from Germany.
Because everybody wants to see you, Chewy, so we want to...
That's why we put him in the middle.
1 second.
Let me slide back here.
Through here.
I got you.
I just want my thing to be in your way.
Oh, the internet. This
Is the thing in your way? Chewy, will you slide over that way so people can see you? To that corner. Mm-hmm. Welcome, everybody. I don't want you to be blocked.
Ain't no way to not block me.
There is. I can switch my hold.
Well, we'll worry about that later. We're already rolling, so if you guys can hear me, you can see me back here wiggling around. But I'll come to this corner a second.
You can sit next to me.
Yeah.
Is somebody's volume on?
Let's see where you guys are coming from. We got Ohio, Texas, England. You know what's funny? Like I was reading this thing about it's called OP, original pronunciation for England or for English. And so like back in the day, like because you could probably, if you go back to Old English, we couldn't understand what the hell they were saying. But the original pronunciation for a lot of English sounds way different. Even like in the dialect that we speak it now, like the way that they would say things is very different. Like they were saying like the word line instead of being line would have been like similar to sort of a sound like loin. Like it would have been had that kind of, you'd almost sound like a pirate. So that would have been like proper English at one point.
Where do you learn this stuff from?
How did we even get there?
I have no idea.
Because he's from England.
Oh,
England.
I was like,
He's from England.
I was looking for a question because I know he goes off on tangents.
The land of the
Where
angles.
did this one come
Aha!
from?
Look at that.
Land of
Look at
the
that.
angles.
Let's hope my thing doesn't fall.
Chewy's attic. Actually, this is not my attic. This is Eugene. Him and his wife own a really cool business where obviously they have massage, they have physical therapy, things like that. And this is the top floor. There's a room up here that we use for the podcast.
I have worked really hard to put stuff up here and make it fit like two big dudes and one decent sized or normal sized guy.
Going back, Sam Harris. I don't. By the way, Sam Harris, I don't think you guys speak like that now. The original pronunciation, they're talking about like the 1600s or something, like way back in the day. So we're not talking about that now.
Do I have an accent?
Yeah, you sound kind of country.
Yeah, I know this. It's actually improved since I've moved to Louisville. Once I got out of the military and moved to Louisville, it's a drastically a lot.
Yeah.
better.
Is your phone got? Is it on?
Yeah. Somebody's volume is on.
It was Joe's volume. His volume was up.
Joe, how
I thought I
could you?
muted it.
Chewy's got great. You do some good accents.
Let's
though.
see. Speak.
What you got?
I don't know what I've got. I'm just speaking right now.
I don't know what is that Scottish?
I don't know.
I'm fluent in 3 languages.
I'm just speaking. No, you're not.
Yeah.
What?
English, bad English, and redneck.
Those are all the same, right?
No.
Joking.
Not even close.
You just sound like a Valley girl. Was that supposed to be English?
Shut up.
Joking.
JK.
What's up, guys? So, just to greet you guys in here. So, my buddy Joe is here with us today, and we're going to be talking some strength training with you guys. Big congrats to Joe. He recently hit a big sort of goal for himself. He went 300 plus on a snatch. For you guys that don't know what a snatch is, basically the weight is on the ground. The person grabs it with a fairly wide grip, and they basically explosively throw it up overhead and stand up with it. It's an insane lift, 301.8 pounds. That's something in kilos.
137.
137 kilos for all you guys that are out there.
Pretty impressive.
I was pretty happy with it. Not gonna lie.
Yeah.
It's something I never thought
You
I'd
going,
do.
fuck yeah. That pretty much told us that.
It's weird because like you guys will be rolling and I can hit a PR and Chewy will pop over. Just he knows by the language coming out that it was.
I never even know what, like, I just know every time I look at you lift, it's like, I don't even know how to count all that weight up. I just know it's a lot.
Well, it's funny because like I sent you that video before I posted it and sent it to anybody else because
Really?
I noticed the same thing you did. And Eugene thought he was taking a stab at me because of the lift. He's like, "Oh, we got to fix that knee." Yeah, And what's funny is that's not even my bad knee.
Yeah.
My left one's the bad knee.
Well, we were just because we've been working on your knees, and I was like, that's the first thing. I didn't even look at the weight.
And that wasn't even my bad
I just looked
knee.
at the lift.
Yeah.
And I was like, I mean, okay, yeah, I know you do impressive lifts all the time.
Yeah.
I was like, that's fine. I know that I'm always blown away by how much you lift. I'm more concerned about your knees being healthy.
Yeah, but it was funny because then after we talked about the knee, and he's like, "By the way, how much was that?" I was like, 300. He's like, "Jesus Christ."
Well, yeah, you were pretty excited. You're usually not excited about a lot of stuff, like as far as lifting goes. I mean, you're like, okay, you lifted that. You're pretty content, but then you got pretty excited about that, and I was like, all right, that must mean like it's a big deal.
I tried more weight after that, and I missed it overhead.
The charger.
What am I doing wrong here?
No.
Oh, it's okay.
No, you put.
I got you.
It's all good.
Bingo.
Yeah. So, but that was how long have you been working to get to that? Is that a goal that you've had for
Like
a while?
realistically working or just something I wanted?
Well, okay, something.
different.
How long have you wanted that?
I mean, like ever since I was exposed to snatching, I was like, I used to come to the gym and tell Chewy once I got exposed, I was like, I don't see how guys do this with 300 plus pounds. It just doesn't make sense to me whatsoever. It's something I'd like to do, but like, you know, back when I was doing competitive CrossFit, it wasn't something I thought I would ever actually achieve. But once I dropped that and moved into just strictly strength training and Olympic lifting, like it slowly started creeping up more and more. And I was like, I'm eventually going to get this.
So for anyone that like doesn't, it's not huge into weightlifting, like what does it take? Literally, like what kind of training did you have to do, specific training or even accessory work? Or what kind of stuff did you have to do to actually get yourself to that point?
So I have a coach that does programming for me. Luckily, we both have very, very similar training philosophies and methodologies towards training. You know, we train the lift. And when you're training a lift, you're training the movement. And then after you're training the movement, you're training movements that improve on that movement and then accessories. Luckily for me is like with my background in bodybuilding, I don't require a lot of accessory, like training muscle groups to get stronger. My lifts are usually missed due to technique work. And so we just did a lot of auxiliary lifts to improve the snatch, mostly a lot of snatching from the blocks and working around my knee.
So a accessory lift, give us an example of that.
An accessory lift, now everybody's going to have their own course
Give us
methodology and training.
one example.
For me, an accessory lift would be something very isolated. I just did a video on this a little bit ago. An accessory lift for me would be like a tricep press down. Very isolated. Training the muscle, not the movement, would be accessory for me.
Okay. And then the other type, the auxiliary lift is just maybe lifting from the blocks or something like that.
It'd be like snatch from the blocks versus traditional snatch from the floor.
Or maybe just working like the bottom half of the lift versus the top half.
For most people, you know, to get an idea of what this is, it'd be like, let's say bench press. It's everybody's most common one they know. So instead of doing the bench press, then you can do floor press. And that would be the auxiliary lift. And then the accessory towards the floor press would be like tricep press down.
Sure. Makes sense. A lot of tricep.
Tear down, tear up type thing.
That's cool. That's cool. And so the grappling power program, that's something that you and Chewy developed. How long ago was that? And you all had a run of that for a while.
Honestly, this thing's, what do you think, a year in the making?
Yeah, it's about a year. So, you know, Joe, it was when we were kind of rebranding all the strength conditioning stuff that we did. And Joe was like, he came up to me and approached me. He's like, hey, man, I want to make a program for all the grapplers on your side because, you know.
Because originally we wanted to do it just for the guys in the gym.
Right.
That's what it started off as.
Well, yeah, and we were looking at, we were like, man, these guys would really benefit from some strength training. We would benefit from being able to have that. And I agreed because I'm always lifting weights and stuff. And then so he so Joe, was like, hey, what do you think about this? So Joe came up with a program, and then basically what I would do is I would come in and say, I think you should add this, or try adding some of these exercises in, and these are the things that were helpful to me. And he would go and kind of touch it up a little bit.
Sure.
And then we just kind of went back and forth, but it was mainly Joe creating it, and then me was just kind of giving my, Jiu-Jitsu sort of practitioner
flavor on it.
Well, like just from the experience of me versus, because like Joe's a different animal than me, right? So for me, I'm like a jiu-jitsu guy. Like I have the imbalances that jiu-jitsu people have. I have the strengths and weaknesses that they have. So I was giving that information to him, and then he went through and sort of
it's the same way. Like if I went on the mat, you're going to tell me what I need to do to improve, what works best in jiu-jitsu. And just if you came over to lift weights, I'm going to tell you what would work best to improve X, Y, and Z. So
on the this program that you guys had was kind of geared towards. I mean, it was kind of geared towards beginners in a way, because you chose 3 primary lifts. Explain those. Kind of why do you think you chose those 3 primary lifts? And obviously you did techniques or exercises around those lifts, but why were those kind of the bread and butter of the program?
So the reason I chose those 3 lifts, because for beginners, they're going to want to gravitate towards something that they're familiar with, something they see, something they can relate to. Granted, there are better exercises out there for more advanced lifters, but most guys within a jiu-jitsu program don't need advanced lifting. They just need some basic compound strength movements.
And then so we had a bench press,
a
squat, and a deadlift.
And strict press. I put strict press in there too.
Okay. Now it's for the updated or the okay.
There's some strict press in the old version, but the updated version.
So you guys had released the first program, had some good success with it, and then you had a good, Facebook group and stuff like that, so people could really touch base and ask questions. What did you guys find that worked well, and maybe some things that didn't work well with the first round?
So honestly, it kind of took me by surprise when he told me so many people would want to do it. I was like, we'll see. I really didn't. I've always made programs and put them out there for people, but this is the first one that there's a big group. There's over 300 people.
Yeah, we had 300 people in the original launch.
Okay.
I'm having fun with them in the group while you guys are talking. No, we had about 300 people. It was a big launch. I think the big thing is that a lot of people want to train, they want to lift weights, they want to do that stuff, but they
don't know where to get started.
They don't know, and they really, the thing is you only have so much bandwidth, right? Yeah. So you only have so much time in the day that you can spend towards learning something. So it's like, okay, well, I'm learning jiu-jitsu, I'm learning this, I'm working, I've got kids, I've got all these things. It's really hard to say, okay, now I've got to learn the ins and outs of proper programming for lifting. That's a lot more to take in. So instead of just like, hey, listen, we did the work for you. Let us kind of show you through it.
So what were some issues maybe that you all found, or some difficulties that people had with the program, or you guys even had?
With the program for people online or in the gym?
Both. I mean, whatever, even online.
So the first thing online that was almost overwhelming is, and I'm glad Chewy did this, is we cut off the sales for it, so that we could focus on the first batch of people to get through it. I was very thankful he did that, because when he told me how many people did it, I was like, I might have bit off more I could do, because I was going to be dedicated towards helping these people. The entire time, the first 10 weeks we run the cycle, I did live Q&As twice a week. He did one a week. I answered every single question. Somebody either emailed me, posted on any of our social medias. If they emailed him and he didn't know the answer, I would respond to him. So we, basically coaching people through this, and on top of that, people signed up for the individualized, a lot of time and dedication to it. So that was the first thing that I had to figure out, was how to space out my day a little different now to get to all these people.
I'll tell you one thing that I'm kind of a grump sometimes about this. I would get a message from someone and they would say well, listen, can I do this at home? I'm like, well, do you have any equipment? And they're like, no. I'm like, well, no, you can't. You need something. It's I don't understand. For me, it's the reasoning. It's gym memberships now are just so dirt cheap. First off, a lot of jiu-jitsu gyms have, all you need is basic stuff, basic weight racks and stuff. Right. But you got that, you're fine. But but you need some basic equipment.
Sure.
But even then, if let's say if you don't have the equipment, you can always go to a gym. And the gym memberships these days are so dirt cheap. Yeah. It's these places will charge $9 an hour, or $9 a month, and boom, you go lift weights, and so you get all the equipment you want. And so I think it's one of those things. Look, and this is for me. I don't know about most people. I can't do like I'm very, and this is not just me. Everyone's like this to some degree, whether they know it or not. Like when you go into a McDonald's. McDonald's is made to be the same no matter what McDonald's you go into. If you go into McDonald's here in Kentucky or California, it's the same place, same tiles, everything.
Right.
On the back of the tiles, they actually say McTile. Yeah,
Really?
My buddy worked there, yeah. Or he worked for a company that went and did their subcontracting work.
No. I want a picture. Somebody out there's got to get a picture of this now.
Now, so with that said, when you go into particular places, it changes your mindset. So when you go home, this is like one of the most dangerous things if you're going to go work out later. You go home.
Do not sit on that couch.
And you sit on the couch, what happens?
It's over.
You are now relaxed. If you go into your bedroom, you're relaxed. So people, like, unless you've got a space set up to work out in your home with equipment and everything else, it's like, good luck doing it. Because that's why those at-home workout programs don't work, because you're not changing your space.
Right.
Like when I go into, for instance, if I go into I have a membership to a traditional gym. I have one of those because some days I want to turn my brain off. I want to walk in and I just want to like lift weights and be anonymous. But even in our gym, we have a weight training side, and when I'm in that side, I'm in like lifting mode, right?
Yeah, he'll put his headphones on, and it's basically like I'll have to wait till he's done, and I'll see him do this, and I know I can speak to him. But when this is going on, I literally won't bother Chewy.
So where I'm getting at with that is, if someone like, again, if you have equipment at home and you're used to working out at home, that's fantastic. But for a lot of people, I think it would be beneficial to change the state of their mind by putting themselves in a space that's dedicated to lifting weights, where that's the only thing that's going on, because it's just like jiu-jitsu. Like, again, I literally had a weight or a matted room, and I was a roommate with two jiu-jitsu guys. Me and two jiu-jitsu guys lived in a house. We had a matted room, a 12 by 12 matted room. You know how often we used it? Maybe 3 times out of 2 years, and we only did that because the snow was so bad we couldn't get out and we wanted to roll. So what I'm saying is, we had rooms right there, but instead we went to the gym and trained, and we got way better training when we were at the gym than when we were in our matted room, because it's a change of space.
And it's so funny he says that, because up till this last year, when we started outfitting for more strength training and Olympic lifting, up till then, all that equipment in the gym was actually in my garage. That's how our weight side got started. Mm-hmm. It was in my garage. I just wasn't using the shit.
Right.
Like it was in there, and like at one point, me and Chewy downsized. Like we had more equipment than we needed, and was taking apart. He goes and puts half of it in his car, and then he said, "All right, I'll see you tomorrow." And 5 minutes later, I hear the door open back up, and I'm seeing all this equipment being slung in the gym, and he's almost mad. And I was like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "I'm not going to use this shit when I go home. I'm just going to drive out here anyway. I'm just going to put it back in the gym."
I was like, "I'm not going to
right. Like I had all of it in my gym, or all in my garage. He was going to take it. Realize that we don't work out well at home by ourselves.
Most 99% of people not.
Now here's the thing. The majority of my training, maybe one session a week doesn't, but all of my other sessions, I'm by myself training. I can train by myself and be fine. I don't need a lot of people around. It's great when it is, but it's the environment of being in the gym with the equipment and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. But like if it was in my garage, I wouldn't work out near what I do right now.
Well, I think it's like a certain energy in a gym.
Yeah.
Like, when we come to jiu-jitsu, we're like, there's just a certain feeling.
Energy.
Mm-hmm. There's like, all right, it's time to go. It's like you walk into a tournament, you feel that energy.
Well, he'll make a post, right? Like, hey guys, hard rolling on Mondays. Like this happened like 2 weeks ago. He's like, hey guys, we're doing some hard competition rolling Monday, getting ready for Nashville. I turned the corner, and when I walked in, I was lifting weights. I turned the corner, walked over. I was like, oh my God, there was like 65, 70 people on a Monday night.
So I think that's one of the big things, is that people wanting to, just be lazy about it. Like, I don't want to go out to a gym and work out. Can I just do this home? Just like, it's like, and again, I mean this in all niceness and sincerity, like, because I want people to get results. Put yourself into a position where, like, you have to, like, just drive your butt to the gym, because then you're at the gym and there's no backing out. You can't just go, whatever. You're there. All right, I made the drive. Now I'm going to work out. And again, those gym memberships are so cheap. If you don't go eat out to dinner one night, boom, you got your membership paid for it.
Yeah. So that's a hard thing for me, because I actually have flooring. I've got a rack. I've got weights.
Yeah.
A lot of good stuff in my garage, and it's hard for me to get out there. The problem is I can't really go to a traditional weightlifting gym because I just don't have the time with my kids and everything, and as busy I am. But so the one thing that we talked about before the podcast was I've started trialing your kind of personal,
because you've been using the app.
And I was like, I've been texting you and messaging you actually through the app and texting you regardless. But I was like, one of my issues is not that I don't really know how to lift. I'm not perfect, but my compliance, knowing what to do, when to do it, and that extra energy of thinking like, shit, what do I have to do today? What do I need to lift? what weights do I need to do? The hardest part was honestly getting my 1 rep max, and I came into the gym to do that so you could watch me do it. And then I've just been using the app, and it's been freaking awesome. So we can talk about that too later. But man, that has been
the first thing
game
you
changer
said
for
about
me.
the app, by the way, wasn't the training and stuff. And he goes, I can use this to help people. I'm like, yeah, I'm surprised you didn't already know about it.
It's wonderful, man. It's like, it's just super easy. Like,
because I could honestly see, especially because you can add the video. We'll talk about that later, but like you can add the videos in it, and you know, rehab. You can literally people have a visual to go off. I'm a visual guy. Like, even with Chewy, like the one thing me and him can geek out more about training is like business stuff. Like all the time, and he'll come and explain some marketing ideas to me, and he'll start to see me start to fade away. And it's not I'm not trying to pay attention. I'm lost. I have to have a visual, like, and he'll pull out a piece of paper and start. I'm like, okay, now I'm following again.
Well, if I know if it's week 3, day 2, or exercise 2, I know exactly what I'm doing. I know my weights. I know my percentages. I can look back and see whatever else I was doing. And
that was probably the biggest change we've made from the first version to the second version.
What's that? Less options.
Less options. Because, again, this is designed for beginners to intermediate lifters. It's not designed for advanced lifters. And if you give beginners too many choices, like, you know, if you got a guy you got a lot of people on your channel right now, they're quizzing about maybe doing jiu-jitsu, and I'm thinking about going out and training. Like day one out there, you're like, all right, man, what do you want to work on? Arm bar, triangle chokes, or back takes? They're going to be like,
what?
Don't die.
So same thing. That was
don't die.
And man, like all the guys that was in the group that Chewy made, we've moved those to a new group now. But like, they were very good at giving feedback, stuff they liked, stuff they didn't understand, and like people would ask questions, and like you get naive about training. You're like, how do you not know? But then you're like, well, that's what you have me for, is to do that. So I do videos. Like you've sent me stuff like, hey, I need a video on this, this, and this, and been getting those done. But like taking away a lot of those options and just saying, here, do this.
Yeah. And somebody asked about the app, and we'll get into that later, but that's only for like people that are actually training
on the personalized program
with Joe. So I think it gives him a way to really like give you a specialized program, and then actually communicate with you, check your progress, check your numbers, because you can see everything that I'm doing, right? You can
like
see on your end.
The personalized programming, so at first I was kind of curious because like it can be difficult to train people remotely. And you know, a lot of internet coaches, they sell templates now and vice versa. But like the thing you have to be upfront with when you're coaching them online is it requires over communication on their part. You cannot send me enough videos. I need to know if workouts took too long, if how you're feeling that day, you know, if you ate bad, or like any and everything going on. Over communication on their part is crucial. So like if you text me one day like, hey, I didn't hit 68% because of X, Y, and Z, or I had to watch the kids, and now I've been up for 16 hours. I still got my training in, but I lowered the percent. I know all these things. I can see it in the video. And we can also determine patterns and behavior of, hey man, every Tuesday this is going on. Like we're going to switch Tuesday to a Wednesday workout, so this stops. But it requires over communication on the athlete's part, so you can help adjust their training.
Well, I like the fact that, you know, I think that as long as you have your kind of core exercise, then you have a couple, you know, the accessory exercises, but then you have a few little variations, but you're not getting in the weeds, because people that. If you have too many options, you know, it's like I sometimes have a problem. And Chewy knows this. I have a problem with like making decisions.
Yeah.
If you give me too much shit to do, I'm gonna be like sitting there looking through it for like 20 minutes trying to figure out what the hell
That'd
I should
be me
do.
at over.
And I don't have time.
Yeah.
Well, and options shouldn't be confused with variations, because I saw a couple messages in there in the thing, like from I think Army Mike there. If you got to make a variation, like let's say for instance, if you don't have a particular piece of equipment, variations are fine. But when we're talking about choices, we're saying like when we did the first program, we were having like the auxiliaries were broken up into either like more of a circuit training style or more of a traditional bodybuilding style, and we were just changing it up. And then what happened was everybody those choices of that. Whereas like if you say, listen, I've got to do another auxiliary to hit my tricep or another auxiliary to hit my hamstrings, whatever it is, well then you can always make an adjustment.
Yeah, and the other issue with it was, even though it was in the Q&A and stuff we labeled out, like if you started the program and you did option B, you should do option B the whole program.
Right.
We had people that were going option A one day. Some days they'd do both, and then some days none. So there was no consistency in their training. And the way that I like to train people is keeping things consistent with a lot of linear periodization. You can see where things break down. And
Well, and you know, the thing
grow.
I think that's one of the big things. Like, you know, I noticed this when we were doing it with our students inside the gym.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of them lifted haphazardly. Even I'm guilty of this sometimes. I genuinely enjoy just like throwing some weight around. You know, I don't need to lift for any other reason other than I just like lifting. But there really is something to lifting with a sort of systematic way where you see, am I getting stronger? Like, because if you do the same exercises and you're doing them in different adjustments, you're like, am I getting stronger? Am I getting more powerful? You know,
it gives
these
you a
sorts of things.
quantifiable measurement of am I improving?
Yeah, and
It's
that's
really good.
and that's helpful because I mean that's one of the things that really that's kind of one of the sort of banes of the jiu-jitsu practitioner's existence is they don't know all the time if they're getting any better.
Right.
Like there's no way to say like, hey, like you've gotten 3 points better at jiu-jitsu. There's no way to quantify that, you know? Because even if, let's say if I submit you today, you might submit me tomorrow and it doesn't mean that I'm getting any worse or better. It just means that it was my day. Whereas with lifting, if you lift in a program, then you can kind of see, am I making some gains? Am I getting stronger and those things? And it's super helpful.
So, Joe, we talked about kind of how you do your progression of your lifting, like how you advance the lifts as you head towards like increasing your new PR or a new 1 rep max. So how do you recommend people go through? I went to the gym, I had you there, so I worked on a 1 rep max there. If people are at home trying to do a 1 rep max, how do they do that? And then how did you decide, what was your reasoning for deciding the percentages and how to progress the percentages?
So a 1 rep max, honestly, whether you do it at home or in a gym, that part is irrelevant. What they have to keep in mind is not the heaviest you can possibly go, especially if you're just starting this program, coming back from lifting. Some people, if you already know your PRs going into it, that's great. But it's a safe PR, meaning at the point where your technique starts to break down. Like, remember when you came in and did those? You was like, I feel like I can do more. I was like, yeah, you probably could, but that was good. Like your form is starting to break down.
Right,
like,
for sure.
I've seen guys that, you know, at 225 on a deadlift, it's fine. At 235, it goes to shit, right? But yet their PR is like almost 500 pounds. Frank's a great example for this. I love Frank to death, and it took me a while, but I finally fixed his deadlift.
Yeah.
Frank came in the gym day one, deadlifted 405, cat backed. I mean, just as rounded as somebody can get. And around 205 is when that would start to happen. So if Frank came in my gym day one, I would tell him, like, we're going to go off 205 because you can't lift beyond that without compromising your body.
That's a great point.
And see, that's an important thing. Like,
And then you go off percentages based off of that. So
Yeah,
70%
that's
of
what you
that
did with
205.
me.
Yeah, so 70% of that 205 or whatever the percent cost.
And so that's something like with people, like when they use the program, you know, they kind of had to have a little bit, in some cases, a little bit of an ego check because they'd be like, oh, well, I can, you know, like you said, deadlift 405. Well, not good. Like you can 405 with you can do a deadlift for 405, but you're about to throw out a disc. It's like, we're going to stick with good form because that's really, you know, again, if you're doing a program, like, you know, like if you look at like the top lifters, you will see some rounding in their back, but when they're at the very top end of their weight, and because that's what they put all their eggs in, they're trying to be the best lifter they can be. They can round a little bit,
and it's also like their competition lifts. That's not their training lifts.
But with the guys like in Jiu-Jitsu, right? Like we're not trying to be the best lifters. We're trying to be strong and strengthen up the body so that we can train harder, be stronger on the mats, and not be injured. But so that's why, like, again, when you're finding that 1 rep max, it should be a safe 1 rep max, a 1 rep max that maintains form and doesn't break down to shit where like your like face is going off to the side, one arm's coming up on the bench press, the other one, and then like went up.
Like most guys compete, whether it's like when I talk about barbell competitions, I'm talking about like powerlifting or weightlifting. Most guys that compete, their training max isn't the same as their competition max. It's not the same. And I could relate that to jiu-jitsu. Like if I think of Chewy, like I could probably count on one hand the amount of times I've seen him go to a competition gear in the gym that I've been there. I mean, I know there's more times that I'm not always there. He's done it, but like, it's not that often you see that competition gear, or like, it's the same thing with weightlifting. Like it's linear periodization. I like the program with linear periodization.
Okay, so describe that a little bit, and I want to backtrack. You know, the reason why, if people are listening, the reason why you're going to really, you know, form is so important because that form when people talk about like I don't deadlift because my back is bad, what's stupid? You should be able to deadlift. it doesn't have to be a lot of weight, but if you have proper technique and if you have a quote unquote bad back, you should still be able to deadlift in some capacity. You do it every day, you pick up groceries off the floor, you're kind of deadlifting or squatting depending on how you're lifting it. So, you know, that's such a misconception. People with blown out discs or whatever, like, I mean, you guys, like, you have to lift within your means and within your limits. Like, you're not trying to get a freaking 300-pound snatch.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
that's like people, they tell me they want to do what I'm doing. Like, why? I want to compete in Olympic weightlifting.
It's your thing, man.
Heavy stuff. Like, I never ever tell somebody like, you got to use my weights when we work out. Like me and Chewy lift together all the time, and he does his thing over there. I do mine in the corner. Sometimes
different, man.
Well, like literally, it's like when we lift weights together. So just the other day we lifted weights. Now, granted, Joe was doing a deload day, but like there's times where Joe and I will squat together. And if you guys know me, like I've had a couple knee surgeries. I don't squat heavy. I usually go to 225 and I just do reps. I do slow and controlled reps. I could do more. I could do a lot more, but I'm like, I just don't have any desire to. There's no need. Like, what am I getting out of squatting like 275, 315, 350, whatever? Whereas Joe, he's trying to be the strongest human being that he can as far as weights go. Yeah. So he'll literally work out with my max and do reps with that, and he'll continue to push it. And again, there's the thing, like, we have different purposes. And this is even with people in Jiu-Jitsu. Guys in Jiu-Jitsu are notoriously bad for this. They'll come in and train like 5-6 days a week, 2 times a day, every single day, and you're like, are you? And then they're broken down, and I'm like, are you trying to be a competitor? No. Well, then why are you training so much? You should probably ease
it's
up
all
off,
relative.
Yeah, ease up off the gas pedal. Remember, why are you training? You got to know that. What's your why, and that will sort of determine how you're going to do it is going to be. So, for instance, with lifting, I'm not trying to be the strongest, but I know there's a definite benefit from having a good squat and having the muscles to do that. So I'm going to do my squats and just do them at a moderate weight. And again, everybody has to remind themselves as to why they're doing these things.
Well, I think you're lifting for, like Joe's lifting for like a performance kind of, to achieve a goal.
Sport. Yeah.
You're lifting for kind of longevity and stability and protecting your back and your joints and your legs.
Well, see, we had a long conversation about this a couple weeks ago, and I actually did a video on it about guys that they always come up to me, outside of the strength training. One of the big questions we always get at the gym is, hey, I want to come over and start training with you, get my conditioning up, right? And we're like, you got a competition coming up? They're like, no. It's like, you probably just keep rolling. Like, there's no need to start trying to peak off season if you're not doing that. Like, if you're a jiu-jitsu competitor, and outside of bearing an injury where you can't go roll hard at least one day a week, you shouldn't be adding condition to your training.
I mean, unless you like really enjoy it.
And if it's a mental thing, don't get me wrong. I agree with you.
If you enjoy going for like a run, if you enjoy doing a little like a hardcore workout or something, then great, do it. But you don't have to. You don't have to do it all the time. Like you can just do it when's necessary. I was just thinking if it was.
Mine's done that a couple times there too.
Yeah, I mean, so Joe, talk about that kind of your format or your reasoning for the way you progress the weight, how you kind of start someone at like, because I doing the program, we started a percentage.
You have to have a base. Everybody has to have a base to start off, regardless of what type of methodology you believe in training. Now, mine is I have always been a big fan of linear periodization, which is continuous growth through percentages. Now, the reason I like that with growing through percentages is, let's say, Eugene comes in, we establish some base strength, we give you some percentages to start building to in sets and numbers, and then we notice that all of a sudden, he's at 68% of his heavy single, and at 68%, he starts to break down in form and technique, whereas 64%, he was fine. So there's a breakdown in technique somewhere within that form of realm. We need to determine that. We can increase the technique through auxiliary lifts. We can work through accessory movements to strengthen muscles that may be inferior in certain places so that we can strengthen that lift later and get you past 68%. Now, instead of the 68% error where you were breaking down, you might not start breaking down now until 80%. Okay, and we go back and we rebuild off of that too. We may add some different variations, different exercises, different strengths, and everybody's going to be different as far as what you need to add at that point. But that's why I like linear periodization training, is because it breaks it down into better format. So we can see where the athlete is, where they're breaking down. Because just like we're talking about the bad deadlift, if you're 90% and your back's all back row, then, who cares? Like Damon, for example. Damon was in the gym yesterday. Chewy thought it was me out there ranting and yelling.
He was funny yesterday.
He was, I don't know, like, he was hyped up.
I asked him if he took some meth before. He said, no, just pre-workout.
I was like,
he was hyper.
But he goes, hey, Damon's very, very good. Like, if I was going to hop on the mat and work at Jiu-Jitsu right now, I would want to work a Kimura game. Damon's a guy I would grab. Right? So Damon and me have a respect for each other. So if he's doing something heavy, he's not doing it for me just like, hey, come watch me lift. He wants me to critique him. Well, I go over and I watched his warm up when he was deadlifting. He's a fantastic deadlifter. He's like, hey, you come over and watch me. I was like, yeah, what are you doing? He said, I'm doing this for 3, and it was $4.95. I was like, $4.95. That's all I said. He goes, yeah. I was like, okay. He's like, it should be 500, shouldn't it? And he starts getting smart with me and yelling at me, right? I was like, well, if I was going to do it for 3 and I knew I could get it, yeah, I'd probably go to 5. And he starts cussing and like stomping through the gym, puts 500 on there, and I just poke the bear a little bit. I tell him keep going, so he does it for 5 instead of 3.
Jeez.
And so he hits a huge PR and had great form and technique on it, man. But like,
He's a strong little bastard.
oh, he is.
Joe, how much of lifting is mental?
All of
Honestly,
it.
all of it.
Yeah. You think I'm crazy? Why are you good at jiu-jitsu?
I don't,
Why are you good
time,
at jiu-jitsu?
reps.
Huh? Why?
No, it's
There's
not.
a lot
That's
of
not
reasons.
why. There's one root reason you're good at
I
jiu-jitsu.
don't know.
Well,
It's just mental.
I don't think it's. I don't. It can't be all mental, but mental plays a huge role. Mental is a driver. But
There
I
it
mean,
is.
the thing is without a physical vehicle, because obviously you have worked for this, no doubt about it. But it's also one of those things where like you found something that your body was meant to do.
Yes,
Like for instance,
absolutely.
if you give some guy who's like some guy who's very like his body physically is just not meant to do those kinds of weights. Physically is just not in
Yeah.
him. But he's great at like trigonometry and like doing like calculus or something.
People do
Great.
gravitate towards what they're good at, what their
Yeah.
body. I understand that, but you guys are good at jiu-jitsu because you want to be.
Yeah.
I am
part of it.
strong because I wanted to be.
Well, right. Well, and I think that's one of the things. I think that, a lot of times this is one of the things that always sort of surprises. Like people will say, I'm not motivated to train. I'm like, how are you not motivated?
Oh my God.
Like, do you,
Yeah.
I
I don't like that either.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I have days where I'm a little lazy sometimes, whatever, those kinds of things. But like, even on like the hardest thing for me to do on Sundays is take a full rest day. I take one full rest day a week where I don't do anything, and it's the hardest thing because I want to get up and go work out. And so I think that sometimes if you're trying to push a square peg in a round hole, maybe it's not meant for you. So it's like,
Right.
to me, it's like if you enjoy doing it, then there shouldn't be a problem.
I agree with you. I used to think like everybody should do jiu-jitsu. Like it's good for everyone. And now like
I don't think so.
I agree with you. I just think that like if you have to constantly motivate yourself in some way or just kind of just fight with yourself to get in there, I think after a while that you kind of reach that pinnacle and then it gets easier to show up.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
And if you're just constantly just grinding and it just you hate it and just maybe it's not your thing.
Yeah.
That's why when people constantly have to like watch motivational clips or have motivational quotes and stuff,
They're
like,
nice
that-
sometimes if you need them.
They
sometimes they're
can
good.
be.
They have purpose.
You can read something and it hits you sometimes, and it's like, that was good. I like that. But it's not something you should have to do daily before you go to the gym.
Well, here's my thing. It's like if that's just your way of kind of getting pumped up and stuff.
Just baby jump.
If that's your way of getting pumped up, that's fine. Like because some people need to take pre-workout. I don't take pre-workout. Some people need to like do certain things to get themselves. They have their little rituals before training. That's
Yeah,
fine.
yeah.
Because sometimes like I would listen to. I remember like about a year ago, I was getting up every morning at about 6 a.m. to go lift, and every morning I would do it. I would be listening to like some of the motivational like clips and stuff, just because it was fun to listen to. Like there was one. The Admiral McRaven talk that he did, I think it was like in the University of Texas or something. It's a cool clip. He's a Navy SEAL. He's talking about all these like, little lessons or whatever. But it was a really cool clip, and so I would be listening to it while I was lifting. I didn't need motivation to lift. I just liked it because it was interesting to listen
Yeah,
to.
that stuff's kind of. I'm talking about people that pull up if you pull up motivational workout, oh man.
No, I know what you're talking about. What I'm saying is it's fine if you
of a dude working out. Like,
it's fine if you want them.
Yeah.
But it's a different thing if you like need them just to get up and do the
Yeah.
thing, because a lot of times I would listen to them like I'm on the way to the gym already, so I think that's the difference.
But then again, I find motivation in weird places now. Like I can watch like a sad story or like something that motivates me is like sad music. Like, have you ever heard my music? It's kind of like depressing at times. Like it makes me think of where I came from and where I was, and I don't want to go back to that.
I think a big thing is getting through.
It's weird, isn't it?
Seth Godin calls it the dip.
Yeah.
And basically everyone always starts something really like quickly, and they get super enthusiastic about that start, and then immediately after that start, then you're in the grind. Then you hit the dip where you realize, oh shit, this is
not
tough.
new anymore.
It's not new, and then you're left to do that. Now, the thing is, if you can get over that first little hump, and you were just kind of alluding to this, if you get over that first little hump, then it's like a door unlocks. Because just like, with wrestling, I got this ability to like, oh, if I just work really hard and like really put my head into what I'm doing and focus on it, like I can get good at something. And then from it's okay. And then Joe, with lifting, obviously you've hit some big numbers, and so it's like, wow, I never thought I'd be able to throw. I remember when you put 225 pounds over your head with a snatch for the first time. You're like, because I remember when you first started doing it, you're like, there's no way. And then you started doing it, and you're like, oh, well, cool. Now what happens if I keep going? Maybe I can do something else. And
there are times I'll do, but I gain technique. I become more comfortable with certain weights.
Yeah.
But there's times you don't, and then there's other times I'll do 12-week cycles, and like this last session I just went through, I made massive PRs off of it.
Yeah, I think sometimes not having something, if something is so readily available to you all the time, you sometimes take it for granted.
Yeah.
Like jiu-jitsu is not readily available to me because I have so much other stuff going on. So when I get in there, I'm not always always trying to kill it, but I just love being on the mats.
Yeah.
And so when I get in there, I really am appreciative of being there, and I love being there, and I enjoy it, and I'm hungry to be there. I'm not always like, just because I'm there, I'm not always trying to like, I've got to work on this thing, because if it's always, I've got to do this thing, like it's not going to be fun. So it's got to be fun too. For you to be able to do it, there's got to be a little bit of fun to it, number one, and number two, like there's got to be something where you're striving for it in a way. Like if it's something like it's there all the time, and so that's why I like, for you guys, the way you guys stay kind of consistent, that's impressive. Because it's there, because it's your job. You're there all the time, so it makes it hard sometimes to in that aspect, because you are so good at it.
I only probably spend 3 to 4 days a week lifting now, and those lifting sessions are 60 to 90 minutes. I'm actually focused more on now towards growing a bigger strength training program at the gym and coaching those guys, and so more guys can come through. Because like I'm going to be 37, I'm not going to continuously competitively weightlifting my whole life.
Well, how have you gotten stronger? I mean, you just hit a lift at 30.
You say that, you'll end up being like one of those old dudes still throwing some big weight.
I don't get me wrong. If I'm healthy enough, I will. Until my body tells me, hey, time to hang it up, I will compete. I'm not going to be that guy that like is trying to, I've got double hip replacements and a shoulder barely hanging on and still trying to lift.
Louis Simmons is
no, I'm not trying to do that.
Guy, I don't even know how that guy even moves around. Like he's like his joints don't, like he doesn't even.
But see, the problem is that like when you become so like, I mean, it is what it is. Like, you think about.
It's hard to let it go. I get that.
Well, it's hard to let it go because our identities get so wrapped up in the things that we do.
Yeah.
So it's like you look at professional athletes in all sports. There's always so many of them that just don't hang it up when they should have, right?
Yeah.
And it's so hard because who are you supposed to be now? You've been this basically sort of personification of a warrior in our society, right? And now you've got to hang it up. You got to lay down your weapon. Like, what are you going to do now? Like, it's a hard thing to do when you spent all your time doing that thing, and now, like, who are you?
Did you see that documentary that Chuck and Tito, they just came out with one?
No.
So they came on ESPN. It's like their documentary on their rivalry and their fights, and they talk about
going on Netflix soon. That'll be fun to watch.
It was on ESPN, but it's phenomenal because you look at Chuck and you see him start getting like clipped and knocked out, and he's like, and even in the interview, like now, he's like, I was winning those fights, and like, no, you weren't, man. Yeah. You get like put away, and it's just hard, and so like you look at guys now that it's so hard for people to go out on top because if they've been struggling, they lose a few, but then they win one. They're like, I still got it. I still got more in the tank, and it's just like every person that's competitive, athletic, that has something that they're passionate about wants to go out on top.
Yeah,
you want to go out on a W.
Man, always. Honestly, like I've come to terms with that's not going to be the case with me, and I'm all right with it.
As far as what? Going
out on top. It's not even like I'll go out where I go out, but like my goal now is to teach younger generations how to, and like one thing with this program is how to skip a lot of the mistakes with training that nobody taught me along the way. Yeah. So to help them progress faster and better than I did, like that's a big goal of mine. And to help the guys, like if you've noticed now how many guys in our gym are working on strength training continuously.
A lot more.
Oh yeah, like it's gotten a lot. I'm loving it, and all the coaches that are there helping me are loving it too.
Man, one of the best ones was seeing Kevin get to a full depth squat.
Yeah.
Like the dude, like he literally has these tight ass hips.
I think he might be the only person I've seen with tighter hips.
Can I tell you all something about Kevin? I don't think it's his. I don't know about his hips, but his ankles.
No,
His
I've
ankles
touched,
too.
we've
Dude,
touched on
he
that
walks.
too.
So when he walks,
And
he kind of
you
like
see his
walks
feet
on his
turn out.
toes.
Yeah.
He kind of toe walks. So I'm telling you, but
We've
Kevin's
worked-
like super explosive too.
He is.
So
He's
I
super
think
explosive.
there's something. I think he kind of.
When I had him, the first time I had him stretch his ankles, he looked like he was about to cry.
Yeah.
Yeah, that ankle stretch that me and you talk about, where you get up and you pull your body weight onto your knee into
Yeah,
a bench
yeah, and drive it forward.
He got this like big eyed look, like somebody was behind him, like stabbing.
Yeah,
him, you know?
yeah. I mean, I don't know. Do you think his issue maybe is from because he wrestled, didn't he?
Yeah.
Do you feel like there's some issues from wrestling?
No, I don't.
in that
Not
aspect?
not from wrestling. Not with the ankles, because honestly,
Well,
if
no,
you-
in the hips.
in the hips, not necessarily. If you look at like some wrestlers, like like a lot of wrestlers, they typically they can get down pretty low and stuff like that. That's not always the case.
Okay.
I think it's more of a case of simply just modern living, man. We sit down a lot, and even just the way that we live, we wear shoes that have that build up, and we don't get and so the proper flexion in our ankles doesn't develop like
Yeah.
it's supposed to. Our calves get short and
right.
things like this. So I think honestly, most people. They probably have some sort of predisposition towards developing these problems, and then with modern living thrown into the mix, it just tears them up.
I try to like we're barefoot now. Like we're barefoot in our office, and I try to have my kids not wear shoes at home.
I walk around the gym barefoot almost all the time.
Yeah, I mean,
Like I try not to during the
It's
busy
really
hours, so
good.
people don't look at me funny. But it's more
The
comfortable.
reason
for
why
me.
you would do that, I mean, like you think
I have
about
socks on. I don't just walk around.
I mean, the only time I
nasty feet people.
like really wear shoes is when I go outside. Like and then like walk around, like say like if I gotta go to a restaurant or something, I'll put some shoes on.
Yeah.
But even like at home, like if I take the dog for a walk or something like that, I'll just go barefoot.
it's kind of like I mean I don't even know if this is a great example, but like wear like a mitten on your hand all the time. It's like you're not going to use your fingers properly. You're not going to use your hand properly.
One of the things that we make people do in the gym, like if anybody that was in the channel right now, they walked in the gym day one and there's like, hey, I want you to watch me squat and like take shoes off first. First thing I do is I want to see where your feet collapse and how your ankles are moving forward. Like,
well,
where you
people
feeling
lose
certain
that.
things.
They
Yeah.
lose the arch. They lose their foot.
And it's hard to
intrinsics.
see in a shoe sometimes because like a
can
real
sometimes, yeah.
popular shoe people wear is that I see in the gym or the Nikes like you wear, right? And they got that real cushion on them, and it's hard to see if they're collapsing in with their Achilles, not Achilles, their arch.
Yeah.
Sorry. So I have people squat with their shoes off
well, I
just so I
think-
can see their foot placement.
Well, they do that because, like, you think about it, when you lift, you're in a like either a lot of those guys are barefoot or they're wearing socks or they're wearing like the kind of the really hard shoes.
Yeah.
And a lot, they're hard shoes because so you don't lose any
Yeah.
power on your lift. So that's why you're always lifting like on
Yeah, I
on
lift
like a
in lifters
hardwood.
when I actually
Right.
My warm up, even when I'm warming up though, is barefoot. So I want to make sure that I have nice ankle flexion, that nothing's tight, I'm not feeling anything. What's the bone at the top of the foot begins with a T?
Tibia?
No.
Tibia tailored.
The one that meets the tibia. Talus, is that what I'm thinking?
Yeah, like-
making
okay.
sure I'm not feeling it because my left one, where I got it popped in jiu-jitsu years ago, gets really tight, like bone on bone.
Yeah.
So I warm up barefooted so that I can feel all that go away before I ever put shoes on and actually warm up the squat.
Yeah, and then and then your ankle does have like natural, like it doesn't just bend and it doesn't dorsal flex, plantar flex. There is some roll and glide there, so there's a lot of movement. So, I mean, it's important to mobilize in different ways, and then there's also here's the other thing people don't think about: the shin, the tibia. Actually, the shin rotates.
See, I didn't know that until you told me that. And then one day I went to, was stretching out my ankles and I put my hands on my shin and I felt it rotate.
Right. So
I never realized that.
So
till
when you
told me.
dorsiflex, when you shorten that angle, it actually medially or internally rotates. When you plantar flex or point your toe, your shin kind of rotates outward or externally rotates. So that's actually, so people really kind of, if you've done everything, start adding a little rotation to your mobilizations. And we can maybe do a video on that. That would be a great way, because that's just a way to really get that full range of motion.
Where I've trained so many people through the squat, because that seems to be a primary exercise people want to work on. I can tell within the first 3 seconds what your ankle mobility is like, and you don't even have to start squatting yet. And Chewy's a prime example of this, and we've been working on his for a long time. Guys go up and they squat and their ankles are turned out almost
Yeah.
at like almost 90 degrees, right? Or they go to squat and as soon as they do, you start seeing their feet rotate out, right? It's just a sign of bad ankle flexion. It's like most guys are always, when they come to the gym, like, oh, I don't squat because I got bad knees. And like, it's usually not the knees.
That was the big thing, man, for me. Like, because when we started working on my ankles, like you and me, like Joe was giving me some exercises to try, and I remember like I pretty much had given up on doing really any amount of squatting because I was just like my knees can't take it. They just can't take these squats anymore. And meanwhile, I'm out doing jujitsu and training my ass off, like somehow, like, but squatting I can't do, right? And then I started doing these exercises with Joe. A lot of the primer exercises, and then just doing a lot of ankle stretching, like constantly throughout the day. And I'll do this thing where throughout the day at some point, I'll just get down and drop into a squat for 5 minutes.
Yeah, just sit there, right?
Sit there for a while. But then, like, recently Joe was laughing, and I'm like, what? Like, I got done doing a squat. I'm like, what? And he's like, you got a butt wink, which if you guys know what a butt wink is, it's not a good thing, but I've never been low enough to really get a butt wink. I've always been like touching.
That's what I said. I'd laugh. I was like,
Nice.
you're not supposed to do that, but the fact you can now just shows how much flexibility and mobility you've added to your posture
Well,
and
and
your
then
body.
Now,
in a moment. Commercial break. This is brought to you by the Grappling Power Program. Where
yeah.
you know,
Guys, sorry, messed up.
the one thing that is important, and you've done this with a lot of people, and of course me as a physical therapist, I do this all the time. It's like you have an ideal squat that you want to attain, and you want to load the back and everything like that, or load your weight. You may not get a traditional squat, so you may have to, you do like the Spanish squat, or do something with, using the squat machine. There's variations, and also then you're looking at limiting your depth. You can limit your depth. You can do split leg. You can do single leg. There's so many variations. So, and Chewy, to your point about your knees feeling better, number one, you're building stability. You're building strength in your tendons and your knees itself, the musculature around it. But the other thing is there's research out there that if you have to load your joints and load that cartilage. Now, I think there's a point of diminishing return where you do too much, where it can break that cartilage down, like if you run a marathon or whatever, that kind of example. But if you're lifting in a way that feels good to your body, you're actually helping promote and save that cartilage, and you're keeping that cartilage healthy. So there's research out there, because there's certain, that your body does react. It's meant to do these things. It's meant to lift and do all that stuff. So you just have to do it within reason, and everybody's got a different protocol for what feels good for them.
yeah.
The thing is, you also, like when you're talking about a squat, and if you watch some people teach a movement, they're very one-dimensional. Like they teach every single person the exact same way. Now there are absolute, if you take like a squat or a bench press, there's absolutes that have to take place, like a neutral spine on a back squat, right? But as far as like, he's going to have different feet placement. In fact, he does different foot placement than you do. The way your knees go straight forward, where his knees go out. Like, everybody's going to be different. Sure. That's not affecting the overall lift of itself. There's absolutes and safety protocols you want to take place of, but like, you have to learn to coach people in different ways, give different cues, say different things. And that's the big thing that I like to do with people is I try to find a way that works for them. We start with a template, break it down from there.
Sure.
So that's a big difference I like.
Well, you do like a general kind of thing, like a general lifting, protocol, whatever it is, and then you fine tune it. It's kind of like, you take them through basic exercise and see what they're good at and what they're lacking in, and then you fine tune. Okay, your squat's great. Let's progress that a little more. Your deadlift sucks. Let's work on, your stability of your shoulder blades. Let's work on neutral spine. Let's work on, getting down proper bar position, whatever.
That's why it's almost funner to train beginners or people that have just been doing it for a little while, because they're more receptive to advice, more receptive to coach. You can help them progress along the way, and it's a great feeling on both people's ends. Like, I helped you do that. You did this. What other knowledge can I help you with? Versus somebody that's like an elite level.
Well, not even elite. You just have some experience.
Somebody thinks they've already got everything figured out. There's nothing you can really
Well,
offer.
and there's habits too. There's ego, and there's habits that they form.
Because
feel like,
and they just your first process. If you have someone with experience, a lot of times, and it's different with jiu-jitsu. I feel like in jiu-jitsu, it's like people, you can almost like like you roll with them and you basically, and I don't mean this like you're going to beat someone up, but you almost beat the mindset shift into them.
Yeah.
With lifting, you don't have it. So they'll be like, well, I've been doing this forever, whatever. Then you have to literally retrain the way of thinking first before you have to plow the field first before you can plant the seed.
Yeah.
You're training their mind. Before we get into some questions, Joe, as far as the program that you had me on, as far as like the one-on-one training, let's kind of, what was your reasoning, kind of your thought process behind that, and give us a little more information on that one.
Well, so Chewy's touched on this actually better than I have. Like the program's a template and it's a tool and it's going to be used the best way it's a tool for you to use, get the best you can out of it. So with the personalized programming is for people that need more of a personal touch, one-on-one communication. They need more variations. They need more different accessories. They've been injured in the past, or they've just been not lifting for a very long time. So the personalized programming is there for that. The app, what that allows to do is that constant communication, like you use with it. You're always like messaging me. You can post videos to it. Everything I can see. I need more. As much communication from the athlete as possible, so I can see what their mindset's like, patterns of behavior, patterns in their movements, going forward with that. But it's all stored within that app, so I can go back and look at videos that you've sent me from a month ago, and I can compare it. Like I've done that with a lot of my lifters. If Sarah's watching this, it's a girl I coach up in Canada. We went back and looked at her first deadlift video. Yeah. Now this was a girl. Remember the one that got the first pull up? Like she's a phenomenal athlete. Like she's a lot like me though. She can be a head case as far as getting her in her own head before a lifting session. Sometimes she'll call me on the phone. We'll FaceTime. Whatever we got to do. Whatever I got to do with the athletes, just to get them in a mindset that they need to train and think of. Because progress is progress. If you miss a lift and you learn, that's still progress, right? But sorry, went off on a tangent there. But her first deadlift video, we went back and looked at it. Like it was this cross sumo. She did PR at the end of the cycle, but she's way more comfortable with the weights, and her movement now is just like
which is an improvement.
Oh my God, she is a really, really good deadlifter. But her first deadlift was this like hybrid version of a sumo deadlift with an over-under pull with a wide grip.
Were her hands on the inside and her feet were out wide?
Yeah, it was. I was like, she's like, oh, somebody at the gym told me to lift like that. It's like, okay, watch this video, go try that again, come back to me. And just from watching one video I sent her, she needs something, I'll do a video variation. And a lot of the YouTube videos I do are like, somebody need to know something, be from my clients. So like, hey, I need to do this. Great, I'll do a video not just for you, but for everybody else. But she does really good at video cues that I send her too.
So if people want to, so the Grappling Power program is out now. You guys have already re-released it.
Yeah.
Is it on?
We just re-released it today, so the program's actually on the program's on the website. So if you go to jujitsu.net/, it's just check out the video course section. You can click on that. You can get it. We've included Joe and I did it. We included both the old program, the original, and we've also included the new 2.0 version of it as well. So if you get a little squirrely and you want to try one or the other, you can. And along with that, you get all the videos and basically Joe built a video database of all the exercises that's on there. As well as a bunch of how-to videos on how to basically like structure your jiu-jitsu training with lifting and how to how to deal with the training itself, because again we found that when we were doing the program the first time, a lot of people didn't understand how this whole thing was going to work or how to do some of the things that we thought were pretty normal, so we go through in detail with that.
And then Joe, your site, is that where they go to work with you on a one-on-one basis?
They can get it through either site.
Either
they
way,
can go to jujitsu.net or the averagejoestrength.com. Basically, it all will still link to the stuff on Chewy's website. So whichever one they go to, it's going to go somewhere.
You want to do some Q&A?
Let's do some Q&A.
I've got a few Instagram questions that a few people sent me, so I'm going to ask
answer
those.
Mine.
Yours? Do you even lift, bro?
So let's do some.
All right, I've got a few Instagrams. Let me get to those real fast. So
for the gram.
By the way, guys, I just want everybody to know, because a couple of people said something about my facial expressions. I typically have resting bitch face when I'm thinking. So, like when I'm thinking, like
dude, that is so true. Because there's so many times at the gym, I'll be like, "Are you all right,
dude?" I'll be on the podcast with him, and I'll look over and Chewy, and I'm like, he's like, "Dude, if I'm not looking at the wall
Yeah.
I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right. 'Cause
It'll
I'm looking
just
at
be
it, I'm
me
like,
and him in the gym, and he'll have that look, and I'm like, what did I do?
Because if you guys are looking at me in the video right now, like this is like when my brow furrows, a lot of times I'm thinking about something. So like a lot of times I stare off in the distance and I'm listening to someone, because if I stare too much at them, I get distracted visually. So like for instance, like when I'm listening to an audiobook, I'll just stare off at something just to kind of listen. And so a lot of times when I'm looking at things, that's what it is. I'm just like, I'm not like pissed off at anybody. I'm thinking. Chewy think, Chewy brow
That's
roll.
funny.
I'm like, Chewy,
But I do the same thing, because Chewy will be like, are you okay, man? You need anything? Do you need anything, bro?
I got the Cro-Magnon man brow.
I'll be like, I'll look at you like after the podcast, we get a podcast, and I'll look at you like, I was like, you're like, man, that was really good. I was like, yeah. I was like, I thought you were like pissed off.
He
about
does that
something.
at work, too.
He's like, no, man, that was good. That was good. I was like, all right.
Just thinking.
All right. So, Lewis Bradshaw 1 asks how to build explosiveness for BJJ. We did a one exercise that was great for jiu-jitsu there's one video we did. That was the medicine ball or the D ball.
The D ball lifts, yeah. So, I mean, based off, me and my form of training, if somebody wanted to work on explosiveness, I would, you can't, I'm not going to say you can't. You can build some explosiveness through deadlifts and back squats, but you can't do it with heavy 1-rep maxes. You have to do it with more lighter dynamic weight that you really explode out of. But me, and based off not just personal experience, but if you look at your NFL combines, your bigger sports, those guys are doing power cleans.
Okay.
Right. But it is a technical lift that takes time to learn. I understand that. And because of that, it takes a lot longer to add weight to that versus deadlifts and squats. Power cleans is a big one that I would always recommend for somebody as far as that goes. It just takes longer to learn.
Yeah, I mean, and it also depends on like where do you want to build explosiveness, right? Like, I mean, because different exercises will build explosive, attributes to yourself. But I mean, like if you're doing like some sort of explosive push, like that, maybe that's not going to help your legs, right?
Yeah. Push press be good for that.
Yeah, I mean, even things like jumps, like for instance, like if you want to do some jumps, like you don't need to be jumping a bunch, but doing like 1 to 3 reps of big jumps, like boom, just jumping, just plyos,
like plyos from a halt, not like CrossFit box jumps where touch and go and just stretching out your calves. Like if you set to either at parallel or below parallel, and then
just
from that
statically stay there, and
from the seated position, you jump onto a box, or you start standing, do a full squat all the way to the bottom, and from that as soon as you hit bottom, explode onto a box. Be good too.
All right. Kife boy, I don't know how to say this. Okay. Any good ways to strengthen glute medius? Low back pain is likely the cause. Or,
glute medius.
So glute medius, that's the outer hips.
Those banded exercises are amazing for that.
Yeah, I like Joe. I don't know what you like. I did like resisted walks.
We could do the Jane Fondas in the gym, the one where you can't make the eye contact. You know what I'm talking about? Nobody? Okay.
Well, I did a video. I did a video and like I titled it something like weird exercise that like helped my back pain or something, because I had issues where like when I was coming back from surgery, I realized I had a really weak medial glute or gluteus medius, whatever it is. And I started doing these banded exercises, and dude, they were like I remember the first day I did them, the muscle was like twitching, because it was like it had been asleep. It was like a sleepy muscle, and all of a sudden I'm waking it up, and it's like like freaking out on me. But that's a muscle that a lot of times people, if they've never done that kind of stuff before, it's very weak. If they sit a lot, a lot of the muscles overpower and they don't.
One thing I've been doing a lot lately, both pre and post workout, is Spanish squat quarter holds. So like get in a Spanish squat and don't even sit the parallel, but sit a little bit higher. Because I how many times have I had to come to you because I itis my knees? Like I've been doing the guy, I can't remember his name, the Dr. Horshig that does the
Squat University.
Yeah, so his stuff's great, and he's the one I've picked all that up from. But it's apparently phenomenal for reducing that inflammation and stress on those quad tendons and priming them.
You're doing isometric kind of stuff.
It's been really helping a lot.
He does a lot of good stuff too.
Oh, fantastic.
But isometric is really good, like working, lowering down and holding in different angles, knee flexion. It's a great way to safely kind of really, let your knees kind of tell you what they can tolerate, what they can't.
I guess a bigger reason that was for that question would be, what's the purpose for strengthening that? It sounds like an injury somebody's coming back from.
Maybe.
I could be wrong.
Maybe. I'm not sure the question. I wouldn't quite Didn't understand exactly, but
Yeah.
it's very important. I mean, it's very important to lift. So if you're like lifting a lot of weight,
Because that's one
for
thing
example,
I'll ask a lot of people. They're like, "Hey, I need to strengthen my lower back." I'm like, "Why?
Yeah.
What's going on?"
well, even a
it
lot
could
of
be a
times-
bigger purpose. It may not even be your lower back.
Could be your core.
Yeah.
I mean, because I know that, like, you know, like one of the things most people in jiu-jitsu think they have like, oh, I have great core strength. But then it's like you get them to do a plank for like, you know, 30 seconds and they're like they're like vibrating. It's like you got a weak core. It's like, you know, you probably, like, you know, for instance, at one point when I had a few assessments done to me, my lower back strength was fine. My core strength was
Your
weak.
your abdominals.
My abdominals were weak, you know, because again, it's like, yeah, I can crunch all day long, but that doesn't necessarily mean that my core strength is good. So I had to do a lot of planks and a lot of like stuff where
Isometric
yeah,
kind of.
isometric type stuff that strengthen those muscles, and it really helped my lower back pain because
Yes.
again, I'm strengthening the other side because my lower back's fine. I was deadlifting like 450 plus. It's like my abdominals were not strong enough to support that.
Well, I had one of the guys from the gym, Kyle, white belt, tall dude, kind of lanky. He's having back pain. So I showed him, I actually had him do like the McGill Big 3, the modified curl up. Like he was struggling. That's kind of like a modified, it's not really a crunch. It's just like you're kind of lifting your shoulder blades. It's for the abdominals, but you're lift. It's an isometric hold. And he was struggling, but he did that consistently, and he said his back pain resolved like 90%.
So one of the things that in the grappling power program
important.
is a lot of core work. Okay, there's core work twice a week in 2 different formats. One of the formats is the waiter farmer combo carries that we do. I love those, and the other one is we do planks with a little bit of a twist. I make people do them
Right,
on
I've
a
done those,
medicine ball, and the reason for that is when you train someone with a weak core to do just planks. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not, for the record, I am not knocking the use of a plank. That's not what's going on here. It's not. But when you train people with just the plank, like if somebody's like, "Oh, just do planks,"
Yeah.
what happens is they learn to tighten up their core in this isometric hold position. But the first time that they now have to do a movement with either a barbell or in jiu-jitsu that requires core to extremity, they relax the core and go back to just moving the extremities.
Right.
So moving in that plank position on this ball teaches you keeping your core in a tight position while moving
It's more
extremities.
dynamic.
Yes.
You know, you're stabilizing, but then you're adding
Yeah.
kind of movement, which is
So that's why I've more adapted that into this program versus traditional planks.
Yeah. Well, let's go from the YouTubes. Let's do some YouTubes.
Man,
Questions.
This YouTube,
Yeah,
man.
it's been blown. I've been over trying not to
Bro.
laugh the whole time. I'm like, man,
What's
it
been
just-
going on? I haven't read anything.
Oh man, like it just keeps going and going. and
Well,
going
you
and
just
going.
get a
What are
bunch of
people saying?
It's just some trolls. Like they're just saying like really mean, nasty things that are just idiotic.
To what, like,
I mean, like for instance, people were saying like very like racist comments and stuff like that. It's probably like one person that's just like that's how they get their jollies.
all right.
So
There's a question.
I don't
Should
dig
one bulk up and cut for competition? There's a good one for you.
bulk up and cut for a competition. You could. I mean, like I think that for one of the first times I really went for a big bulk, I went from 195 to about 215 or no 220 over the course of like it was about a year, and then like afterwards when the tournament came around, I cut down to 215 and I felt great. You know, it just depends on like the reasons why you want to bulk up, and you know,
The one thing I'll touch on there is notice how much time he gave himself to do that, right? He gave himself ample time to bulk up and cut down. Some guys are like, you know, they try to do it like this fucking, excuse my language.
I'm gonna bulk up for like 2 weeks and I'm gonna try to cut weight for
Yeah,
days.
so here's the
impossible.
thing. Like, even if you want to, like, hey, I'm going to go up, I'm 185 pounds, and I'm going to go up to 220. Well, here's what's going to happen. You're
Right.
going to go up to 220, who guys have been 220 for decades and got a lot more base strength, a lot more body awareness. So you have to be careful. Like, whether, and I tell people this, whether it's jiu-jitsu, weightlifting, whatever your sport, if it's a weight class sport, compete where you feel comfortable.
Yeah.
The competition I did where I broke the state records, I didn't cut for that. I was like, I'm just going to go weigh in and do a new weight class. That was the first time for a weight-based competition. I didn't cut weight, didn't sign. I just showed up, weighed in, I weighed in with my clothes on and everything. They looked at me like I was crazy. Like I did. The guy's like, "You're not going to strip down?" I was like, "Do we have to?" He's like, "No." I was like, "I'll go like this." But
KMBG asks, "Hey guys, any tips for calorie restriction and hard training? I've managed to lose 100 pounds with about 60 more to go. Been struggling with staying in a good calorie deficit and training hard. Thanks." Complex question.
it is. But I'll tell you the thing that's helped me and used to be against it. If you got to learn how to fit it in your life is intermittent fasting.
Yeah. I mean, I think
It's not necessarily calorie restricted. It's just
I mean,
timing.
it's going to create calories.
Just not gonna eat.
That's what I'm saying. It's helping. But like, there's a lot of studies out now showing how it's raising testosterone. It's increasing a lot of different health markers in their blood work. Mine's actually come back improved on everything across the board. And I've only been doing it for 45 days, roughly.
Yeah.
And I've seen a lot.
He's over here hating on Joe Rogan.
What is that?
Dude, he's saying like he's a poor interviewer.
Oh, Steve. Steve doesn't like Joe Rogan.
Why?
It doesn't matter.
He's fantastic.
Doesn't matter.
Joe Rogan's great.
Yeah. I mean,
Don't listen to him if you don't like it.
but as far as what were we talking about before you went off of that, Joe Rogan?
We were talking about calorie deficits.
Oh, calorie deficit. So, like, I mean, you can do this whatever you want to. If you're keeping your calories low, but you still want to be able to train hard, I would suggest focusing a lot of your intake around your workouts. So this way you can fuel the workouts. So maybe like, you know, if you're going to go in and like, you know, you're going to train at a certain time, you know, get your meals in around that workout that are fuel you need, like your carbs and stuff like that, and then or your fats or whatever you're using for fuel. And then, you know, as the day goes on, maybe cut the meals out earlier, taper down, or if, you know, however, whenever your workout time, it's different. But I think that if you structure those meals around, you'll have the energy for your workouts, but then you don't have the excess later on in the day. Because I think honestly, where most people I see really tear up their diets is they'll diet for the most part fine, and then nighttime comes around and they just destroy their diet, you know, afterwards with like, you know, excess food at night or something. You know, they'll start gorging on stuff. I'm guilty of it too. But
make up for lost time, baby. You've been restricting yourself. You gotta get into it.
You know, yeah. So it's
just because I want to, you know, for Nashville, and like I'm already like ready to eat everything.
We're all in our 30s, and we came up in a time that we're also told, you know, you got to eat 5-6 times a day. You have to have this protein and stuff after you train, blah, blah, blah. And now all the new science that's coming out is kind of contradicting that. There was a really good question somebody had earlier, and I couldn't find it again. It's, you know, about their protein and source. Like I came up through bodybuilding, and I was told, you know, 1.5 grams of protein per lean mass and weight. And it was like 300 grams of protein a day. And now all the studies are showing that, you know, how little protein synthesis actually occurs in our body each day. And it can protein maximum can only synthesize 20 grams of protein a day. And trying to find that nutritional timing can be extremely difficult.
20 grams a day?
Well, 20 grams when that synthesis is going on. And it's extremely hard for people to actually synthesize the protein and the timing with it. And there's a lot of new studies out. I'm trying to do more and more research on it myself. But
I mean, I still try to make a protein as a building block. I mean, because
you do need it. That's the thing. It's just very hard when that protein synthesis. And the older you get, the fewer and fewer times that it takes place.
I mean, I think that sometimes people would go overboard where you'd see these guys having like 300 plus.
Oh
grams
yeah, that's more what I'm talking about.
You know, but you know, and you know that. That's just, it's hard for digestion. But I mean, I think you still need to definitely get protein in there.
Did the thing drop again?
So, Chewy always caresses my shoulders every time he walks past me.
He's a big dude.
No, I'm not mad about it.
God, this thing's so stupid.
I know. We're gonna just still don't have internet.
He's
left.
fixing the video, guys. I see
Sorry
some
about
guys
that.
just sit there.
So we're gonna have that fixed soon because we've got a new setup coming in the future, and so we will not be using the phone on the side like that anymore.
We will get something better. But Chewy, I do want to say that Parm S says Jujitsu. Watching your videos got me over my class anxiety and allowed me to join my club 3 months ago. Cheers. So
That's awesome.
you've done that a lot for people.
Yeah.
It seems like you helped them get over the hump.
Here's one I'll let Chewy touch on: sprinting versus long distance running for jiu-jitsu conditioning.
So I'll say it like this: they both have their place. If I was going to, here's how I've always done it, and there's a lot of studies that back this up. If you do long distance running, just at an easy pace, you don't have to go crazy. Just run, just whatever, because that'll get your heart rate going, that sort of thing. It's fine. But if you're gonna go hard on one of them, go hard on the sprints, because if you think about like, you're going to be doing a number of different things. But if you think about like, jiu-jitsu is not a constant paced workout, right? There's a lot of like back and forth, and then you're going really fast, and then you're kind of slowing down, but you're not stopping completely. What I always preferred was intervals. So basically, like basically you can do this on you can do this on running, you can do this on a airdyne bike, whatever. But basically going really hard for a short burst, and then going slow for a bit, and going back and forth like that, because that's always been better for me, and even for my fights, that's where I always felt like I would add that in if I was getting ready for a competition, and I always noticed that was really helpful. And you don't have to do it for super long. Like a lot of people, they'll try to do like long, like interval, like training sessions. You really don't have to do it that long. You could do it for as little as like 10 minutes, and you're good. And you'll get gains for that. Because again, there's always you want to get the most for your time, so you don't want to be sitting there like running and doing all this stuff for hours and beat yourself up. You'd rather go in and do the work and get get a result from it without beating yourself up too much.
And that goes back like we was talking about earlier. Unless you have a competition coming up outside of an injury, you need to get that conditioning from the mat.
Yeah, that's a great point.
I'm a firm believer.
It's
in that.
the best way to do it.
I really am.
Yeah, I
I'm
think
not saying there
best.
isn't carryover and complements it can have, but man, even at my height when I was competing in CrossFit, condition-wise, like pure VO2 max, I don't think there was another athlete in the gym that could come close to me as far as that goes. But then I could go out there on the mat, and it's a different cardiovascular response. There's a fight or flight response that's tied into it as well that you can't mimic when you're running, doing road work, on a bike, on a rower. It doesn't have the same carryover.
Right.
That's number one. If you're limited on time or what you can focus on, get your time in on the mats. Yeah. And work hard on the mats, push yourself that way. And then, if you can't make it in as much, then, there's other things. Like you said, interval work is probably the best because it's the best kind of mimic of what you're doing,
Yeah, but at the same time, like there are benefits to doing like doing a longer distance, slow, like just easy run, not going hard, but basically getting to a point, because there were some studies done where they were following all these like different, this is high level athletes, of course, where basically they did a lot of work at sub-maximal intensity. So a lot of their work was done really, really easy, to the point where they could literally be doing the exercise and they could talk to you. They would literally be able to do that. Like, and even you think of you, Joe, where you got some of your biggest gains early on with your Olympic weightlifting was when you were doing really lighter weight and working on your technique. Yep. And then even for me, like some of my best technique gains have come from just doing drills at a slow movement where I'm just drilling through it. I could talk and have a conversation with someone, and I'm just going through the motions. And even with your cardio, there are benefits to it if you just do lighter work for a longer period of time. You just have to have dosages of everything, But if you're trying to like burn up your ability to really go hard and really push it and push the pace, then you need to have some intensity in there. So I think if I was going back to the run thing, run longer distances and go slow, but you need to have those sprints in there, whether they're sprints on the road, running, or sprints on the airdyne bike or rowers or whatever.
You're building that base, and that's kind of important.
Me personally, I'd tell them go do strength training.
Why?
I would, because most guys don't. From what I witnessed, most guys that come to me about their conditioning on the mat, it's not really their conditioning, it's their explosion on the mat. The ability to actually move quick, fast, and have strength when they do it.
Right.
And that comes through strength training, not just HIIT training or road work. So.
Yeah, I mean, you got everything.
And I've never, like all the guys I got right now, like Chris Dukes is a good one, right? Mm-hmm. Chris told me how much, it's helping his cardio on the mat just from the strength training. And that, again, that's coming now. He's developing more mind-body awareness, more strength, more explosional strength that he can apply on top of the cardio he's already building from his jiu-jitsu. He's not doing additional conditioning.
Yeah, and that's another thing too. It's like sometimes it's like people, they want to get in better shape or whatever, but it's like, well, sometimes it's, you got to think of your whole, there's a lot of things going on rather than just simply your cardiovascular system. Like for instance, think about it this way. If you wanted to bench press, like, let's say if you wanted to be able to bench press like 225, a bunch of reps, you're one really good thing to do would be able to bench press 315, right? So instead of just doing 225 as many times as you could every time you come in, get your strength really high. So this way that 225 feels light, right? And so the same thing with the gym. Sometimes if you're,
that's where periodization comes in.
If you're weak, right? If you're physically weak and you're trying to train and you're like, man, I'm just getting so tired, my muscles are getting so fatigued. Well, if those muscles get stronger, then you'll be able to accomplish the amount of output that you're doing without using the same amount. Like you'll have more in that tank.
Yeah.
Now granted, there's always a balancing act, but if you're lifting and you're rolling and doing these things, you'll be fine. I think that, again, if you're a competitor, there's a time to really add in all that extra cardio. But for the average hobbyist, the average person that's training, or even if you're just off season, do your lifting, do your jujitsu. If you want to go run and stuff, that's fine. Don't kill yourself, and you'll be fine. And then if you really want to like burn it up and you really want to take that cardio to the next level, you can roll harder. You can do more rolls, more rounds, and then you can also add in some cardio through intervals and things like that.
I mean, as a DPT, if somebody tells you they're doing excessive road work, what would you say?
I mean, it depends on what their purpose is, first of all. I mean, I don't know. There's a lot.
As a DPT, do you feel there is other forms of conditioning versus long-winded running?
Sure,
a lot
of
better.
course.
Like it's been
Well, it
scientifically
depends on
proven
your
now that
depends on your purpose.
excessive running, is very detrimental to the body.
It can be, yeah. If you're, like I said, if you're running marathons,
Yeah.
like literally, like some people run marathons like once a month or once every couple of weeks.
And I think that's awesome. That's stuff I'll never do, and I think it's a very different mindset for that
Yeah.
individual. But it's not necessarily healthy either for his body.
Yeah, and it depends on the individual. Like most people can't lift like you, but you have taken many years to build your body to be able to sustain that type. I mean, your bone structure is probably different because of how you lifted over the years. I mean, your bones are probably super strong. I mean, your joints and your muscles and your tissue can probably withstand so much more strain and stress as opposed to, it's just because it took years. So again, somebody like is like 35 and they're like, I want to start running marathons every month. Well, you might want to rethink that. But some people are more resilient than others. So, but there's definitely, and I think variability is important too.
Yeah.
So you're not like, you're not running, you're not doing the same thing over and over. You're not wearing yourself out. You're doing different things. Like, like Chewy, you talk about this all the time. You're going to work on one style of game and you're going to play another type of game. You're going to do different stuff. You're going to vary. And that almost like like you said, you're rotating the tires. You're keeping everything fresh. Your mind doesn't get in this like static kind of like this bored out of its, you're bored because you're doing the same shit. You're always constantly learning new things. It keeps everything fresh and it keeps your mind kind of sharp as well. So, but yeah, I mean, there's so many important ways, to build cardiovascular.
What is going on with your chat this week, dude? Like every time
Can you tell us? I don't know. I'm not.
So I'm right here. So while we've been talking, I've been like,
Chewy's policing people.
Dude, it's been
what it
on
is,
another level.
and you really don't know where they are, but they're just weak people. Like this is the thing about the internet, right? Like for instance, we have this chat, and for the 99% of the people are amazing, and they're just chatting. And even if there's a difference on opinion, right, it's fine. But this is the thing about the internet that one of the things I really dislike. So for instance, if you come into the gym, like a lot of times we have like a lot of guys that have different views, but we can chat about those views and we don't have to hate each other. Yeah, right. But on the internet, you can talk like you're tough. But really, you're a weak human being. I mean, dude, it's not even a defense mechanism. This is like someone that's very weak, and so they're weak and they're miserable. So when you have someone that's weak and miserable, they try to spread that misery to other people. So it's like there's not that anybody cares because it's just like a complete troll. No one gives a shit, right? But like, you're just like, just shut up. Like, I mean, it's like, for instance, like they couldn't say that to someone's face. You just couldn't. Like you'd get trashed. I don't know what's happening. So it's basically people just making nasty comments.
Yeah, just trolling.
People making nasty comments. So I've been booting them as much. I wish there was a way to actually kick them out of the group completely, and there's not. Like
I think there's a way you can ban them on YouTube.
Well, there's a way that you can ban them and hide them from the thing, but I've been pressing that button, and those little bastards still come on. It's like a video game at this point. I'll just keep going.
Like, what's I know we're getting a lot off topic here, but what the hell's what are you trying to accomplish? Like,
so some people get off on this, man. It's like this is the best part of their day.
In any way, like, what are you showing to people? Like, you're not showing anything as far as bravery or being like.
They're miserable people, though.
Yeah,
they really are. Like,
so
you got to understand the highlight
sense
of someone's day. They've had such a shitty day, and they're going to blame everybody else.
So we shouldn't talk about them. We should go back to what we're doing because then we're talking about people we don't need to talk about.
Well, that's fine. I don't know who it is, but Q&A. Let's answer some more questions.
Because they've been some good questions, and they get lost in this.
That's what I'm saying. So let's talk about the.
So if we missed a question, you guys got
repost the questions if you have one.
Because they've been a wall of text. I know, Army Mike, you did ask about my military career. That's something I usually don't talk about too much with people until I get to know them, brother. That's all. I I had a great time. I miss it. Did 6 years, but I don't elaborate much more than that until I get to know people.
Yeah, and then he did ask me a question about like rolling with friends. He has a hard time rolling hard with friends. He said he's Chewy size, and his friends are about 20, 30 pounds lighter. Don't like smashing, but coaches say to do it. You know, like I think here's the thing. I roll with people like Damon is bigger than me. He's tough, and you know sometimes he's an upper belt. I'm an upper belt. Go ahead. Smash me,
Well,
you know, that's the thing. But Damon doesn't always want to. Damon uses a lot of technique as well. He's not trying to kill me. And like, I think it's okay to go hard.
It depends on the purpose of training, right? So again, this you always have to go back to this, like, why are you doing what you're doing, right? So for instance, if you're smashing someone, like, was that your goal today? Were you trying to smash them? Or like, you know, if for instance, if your training partners are coming like, hey man, I'm getting ready for a tournament, you need to put that smash on them. They need to know what that feels like because you're gonna make them better, right? Yeah. Now at the same time, like for instance, for me, like I can turn the gears on. I can go into hard mode, or you'll see me sometimes bouncing around and moving around because I'm trying to work that in my game. And so it's like you have to put some thought into it. Now early on, that's very hard to do, you know, but as you progress and become a better jiu-jitsu practitioner, you really have to think about like, why am I doing these things? And so like, you know, there might be a time that you need to add that smash. Maybe there's a time where you just need to ease up and lighten up and maybe play on some of your weaknesses. But you should really, if you're going to smash them, that's fine. But just, you know, again, all within reason and with technique and with safety in mind. Like if you're smashing them and you hear make a weird noise or something, you say, you okay, man? Like, and then keep moving. But yeah, just like the lifting, right?
There's a Team Sean Hammonds. I think a guy follows me on Instagram. How do you party?
Yeah, party.
Okay.
Here's one real quick. It was about for jiu-jitsu, lift heavy or low reps or light high reps. So again, it's not necessarily as simple as cut and dry as that. Because
depends on the exercise.
It depends on the exercise, and it depends on what you're doing. Depends on
the training cycle.
Exactly. And so a lot of times people want these really easy cut and dry answers, and a lot of times they don't exist. You really, where you're going to benefit is having a mixture of them, because again, like when you're saying really, really light reps, I don't really see the point in even lifting at that point. It's like, 'cause if you're going really light and high reps, you're basically just doing cardio. But if you're trying to get stronger, you're going to need some heavy's relative, but you're going to need a heavier weight to stimulus, at least moderate weight to sort of stimulate those muscles to be stronger, and then kind of go from there. But again, different exercises might require, for instance, like a deadlifts. I'm never going to do a high rep deadlift. I just don't, like, for me, it's like, it's not a good exercise to do high reps. Olympic lifting, it's a terrible thing to do high reps, right? Because you're recruiting so many muscles and it can tax the whole body so much that at a certain point, it's just too much.
Yeah, so, like even if I do a complex for Olympic lifting, it's over like 3 to 5 reps, unless I'm just trying to see how, you know, for a one-off and seeing if I can do certain things. Is the video frozen?
Nope, we're good.
Okay. All right.
There was a question I wanted to. So Gabby D asks, after each BJJ training, I'm sore and need recovering, and usually I'm not recovering fully until the next training. Do I also have to do strength training in this case? So this is kind of a multifaceted question. It depends on how much you're training jiu-jitsu. Like if you're training 5-6 days a week and you're not recovering, you're obviously adding strength training is not going to really be beneficial.
Now, see, that would have been my first question is like, what's your nutrition like?
Exactly.
What are you doing post and pre-training?
Are you sleeping enough? Are you eating enough?
There's a lot more factors in that. I mean,
so, but you know,
adding
it
an
just
extra
depends.
training session probably is not a good idea.
Yeah, I think strength training is important, but that does not always work with adding it in. It may be in substitute. Like if you're training 4 days a week jiu-jitsu and you want to add strength training, well, you might have to take 2 days or 3 days and then supplement that. And also, how hard are you training? Are you going balls to the wall every time? Are you trying to go to complete exhaustion when you're rolling?
That's something for me. Like I only train hard, like hard 2, maybe 3 days a week. You know, sometimes less. Like if I don't see the need to, I'll move around and roll, but I'm not going hard. Like, I mean, again, it just goes back to like the purpose in your training. You don't have to go crazy hard every time you, like, you know, there was this thing. You see this in different ways, but people feel like if they don't walk off the mat crawling, right, or they don't crawl off the mat like exhausted, that it wasn't a useful training session. But it's like that's not the case. There's a lot of benefit in like being in a situation where you can train and basically you're stimulating, but you're not annihilating yourself, you know?
I know, like, me and you've talked about it several times, like, when I was hard into competitive CrossFit, like, I was a miserable person to be around. Like I was beat up all the time, tired. Like it was not fun. And I was training, God, man, I was probably sometimes 2 to 4 hours a day, 5, 6 days a week. I love training. I'm talking about in motion training, not in the gym. And now I'm in a place where I do 4, maybe 5 training sessions a week. And those training sessions are, like I said, 60 minutes.
And you're a lot more, you're a lot nicer to be around.
Yeah. And I train less now than I ever have in anything I've ever done in my life. That includes bodybuilding, jujitsu, CrossFit,
And you're stronger
military.
too.
That's the thing. And I'm still getting stronger.
You found what works for you.
Yeah.
I mean,
But see, this is the thing. This is the misconception because people have, we came from a time period of no pain, no gain.
Yeah.
Like I'll sleep when I'm dead. This whole thing where people basically they have such a negative view on rest. It's so absurd. Like nobody wants to sleep. Nobody
days
wants
off.
No days off. Yeah, it's like you need
I'm over here like, how many can I take and
Yeah.
still make results?
Well, it's like take a day off. You'll probably feel better. Like I mean, like one of the things is like, I'll ask people this question a lot. I'm like, have you ever had to take a couple days off from jiu-jitsu because of like something, right? Not anything like being sick or anything, but just like maybe life got in the way. Yeah. And then you come back after 2 days of like no jiu-jitsu. You're like, man, I feel amazing. Yeah. Like now, imagine if you just did that strategically every now and then and gave yourself a little bit of time off, so this way you can come back and get more out of the training instead of like running into the gym.
That's like I have a whole 4-week block plan. My next 4 weeks, I go. My first week's nothing over 60%. Second week, 65's max. Third week, 70. Fourth week, 75. And if my knee's not better, I'm going to restart that and go back through it the same way. I'm not doing anything over 75%. I've already talked to my coach. No competitions, no nothing until I can squat pain-free in my knee. And that inflammation's gone. Because that's another misconception also when people get tendonitis in their knees and stuff. Like you can still do movements when that's in there. You should be doing movements because you can't just like be running a car at 100 mile an hour, slam on the brakes, think that once that hey, my knee's good, you're just going to pick back up where you left off. You're going to do what I did and re-stress that knee again.
Yep.
Right. And it's loading that tendon. Like, are you doing it safely and properly and in the correct way? So,
and again, this goes back to like part of my training philosophy. And I told you guys that I'm okay with not going out on top or a W. Is like I want to teach people to avoid the mistakes in a weight room that I did.
Sure.
That's part of my entire training philosophy is avoiding a lot of the dumb shit that I did.
Yeah, but they're still going to do it a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
They'll have to.
Yeah, you got to make your own mistakes.
Him and Hussey was laughing, having a good time at my expense because there's like every time you get injured, you come back in PR. I'm like, I don't
get injured more often, I guess.
No.
I'm honestly surprised you don't get injured more often.
I'm going to do the Arnold this year and then Nationals, and then we'll see.
Yeah. Dude, it's all about just listening to your body. I mean, that's it. Like, there's no right way and there's no like one wrong way and one right way. I mean, it's what works for you.
Well,
it's just what works for you.
That's the thing is people want hard and fast rules for everything and they just don't exist. It's like you have to value. This is the thing. A lot of people want someone to tell them exactly what to do. And in some cases, that's fine, right? Like, for instance, the program will tell you what to do. But at the same time, you've got to listen to what your body's telling you. Like, if your shoulder's hurting when you do a particular exercise, don't do that exercise. Doesn't matter if it's prescribed.
Yep.
Here's a great example. Certain people will say, "Oh man, you got to always drink this kale shake or whatever," right? I'm just saying as an example. For instance, my thyroid function's low, so I don't need to be eating raw kale because it has a particular compound in it that can affect the thyroid in a negative way.
Oh, okay.
So if I eat a bunch of raw cruciferous vegetables, they have to be cooked. If they're raw, it negatively affects me. Same thing with like going on a keto diet. It doesn't like it. Like, so for instance, I've got my blood work done when I did a keto for a little bit. My damn thyroid function was like just plummeting. Add some carbs back in there strategically, it's fine. It's like, so it's not great, but it's in a better function. So again, my body physiology is different than say another person's. Everybody's like this. And so again, you've always got to, as a person, just like in jiu-jitsu, right? Your coach is going to teach you a ton of different techniques. You're not going to use them all. And like your coaches might have a better style, their best style. It's not going to be your best style necessarily because your anatomy is different. Your strengths are different. The way you move is going to be different. So your job as a person, whether it be jiu-jitsu, life, lifting, doesn't matter, is to take from all the mentors and the people you learn from, and then you make your own stew. You see what works for you, and then that's what you work with, and you can take what you like and get rid of what's not working for you, and that's the way it has to be.
That's exactly it. And you find techniques, like you're going to show maybe a certain number of techniques, and there's certain ones that are going to stick, certain ones that won't. Still try them all just to know. You know, there's like Joe, I'm sure you've got certain lifts that are your best lifts and certain ones that aren't.
And I probably don't lift the same way other guys lift.
No.
Like, just
He lifts naked.
That's pretty awesome.
I got a picture. You can post it.
I had it.
What are you doing?
Real quick, he's like, "Oh,
Yeah, I've got a picture of me doing like I was messing around with like Jess, and there's a picture of me in the gym. We were by ourselves. We were leaving on Saturday, and me doing a thing of like tricep press downs, butt naked, and I had my leg covering up everything, so you just see me there, you know, and see the.
Do you remember we got you? Was it for your birthday? We got you that
the
towel,
that giant towel with you
Yeah.
holding a dog in the bathtub. That's pretty great.
oh, Brandon's in here, man. I love that guy.
Brandon.
Yeah.
Brandon. Oh, there he is.
Yeah. Like,
What up, Brandon?
I do.
Emja?
Out of everybody,
What up, y'all? I can hear him. Like I can hear his voice saying
out
it.
of
just
everybody
like
you've
that.
ever brought up for seminar, I like Muhammad a lot. too.
Here's one too. K-Tel's 57 says, would you suggest intermittent fasting 16-8 while trying to gain weight as long as you get all your calories within your eating window? I mean, you can here's the thing, try it. Like, I mean, see if you can do it. If you can, fantastic. If you find that you can't stop losing weight, then go ahead and dash it and maybe do like, you know, like do 14-hour gap, you know, and then if that doesn't work, change it up. Again, you know, if you find that through the intermittent fasting, you're like, man, if I intermittent fast, I just cannot keep gaining the weight, then screw it for a little bit and just eat the food and get it in whenever you can. And then once you get up to a weight that you like and you want to sit at that weight for a little bit so your body becomes like sort of acclimated with that, then you can go back to your intermittent fasting and then you can start shedding it back off.
Yeah.
You know, but again, like as far as
It's trial and error with it.
trial and error, man.
It really is.
Because some people will say absolutely, some guys will say no. I mean,
because the big things you got to pay attention to when you're doing intermittent fasting, especially if you're doing anything competitive or just training in general, is your big things, your energy levels. If you're not, you like.
When are you doing that?
Yeah,
fasting?
like there were some days when I started the intermittent fasting, Chewy'd come over and he's talking to me. You all right there? I was like, no, I haven't ate yet. And he's like, why are you training right now? I was like, because for the first 30 days, I stuck to, my window was 1 to 9 for 30 days. That was it. And after that, I'd just make sure I would fast I would stop eating still every night by 9 p.m. And I would fast for at least 12 hours. Yeah. That's the minimum I would fast for. Sometimes it would still go past that. I'd go to work, just get lost and, do that.
Yeah, I'll typically do like 1, maybe 2 days a week fasted. But I don't like to, I don't feel the need to, especially on hard training days. I just don't feel the need.
So you just throw it in, kind of.
Like for instance, if I know it's going to be a light training day or a non-training day, I'll fast for anywhere from 14 to 20 hours.
Oh wow!
You know, just because I can. But it's on the days where, where I'm training. I'm like, man, I need the fuel. Like I'm getting ready to ask my body to be high performance. I'm going to say, listen, we're about to put you into the maelstrom of rolling, and we've really got to perform. I should probably give you some fuel to do that. And what someone asked earlier, this is a good question about favorite carbs. My favorite carbs to eat as far as for training, like typically in the morning, I'll eat there's some sort of fruit, or I'll eat some oats, something like that in the morning, like my breakfast. I love like white rice after training.
We have a rice cooker.
We have a rice cooker at the gym. I love white rice after training with like some food. It's so easy to digest that, and I can go back to what I'm doing.
It's good carbs too.
It's not heavy, so I can eat like that. My serving of white rice with my food, and then boom, I can just go about my potato or sweet potato a day. Get that in there. But usually like those are the fruit, potatoes, a little bit of rice.
Rice. The gym was like, why don't we just buy a damn rice cooker and make it? He's like, yeah, that's a better idea. Let's do that.
All right.
I just get my carbs at night. I don't eat carbs through the day.
Really?
Mm-hmm. I do carb backloading. And again, I don't recommend that for everybody. I've found that's what works for me, my energy levels, and my training has drastically changed over the last 18 months in what I do and when I do it. So that's what works for me. I don't recommend that to everybody because some people might train at different times, do stuff at different times. This is what works for me.
Yep.
What do we eat on cheat days?
Cheat days?
Whatever I want. Oreos.
You do sushi. Usually.
Sushi and a beer sometimes. What else? Sushi and a beer is kind of usually, that's one of the go-tos we'll get for cheats. The other day, like Jess and I, we had I guess you considered it a part of the cheat meal. I mean, like the dinner was really spot on. Like I had like a flank steak with some good food, some spinach and stuff like that. But we had some bread pudding. It was like a brioche bread pudding with some ice cream and salted caramel. Dude, that was delicious. It was delicious. But whatever.
I just don't. As long as I'm in my weight class anymore, I just try to eat relatively healthy.
Yeah.
But cheat days, I can go pretty far off the radar.
Here's one thing I would say to any.
I'm an emotional eater too. Is my thing. I am, man. Like if I'm having a really bad day, Chewy will he'll be like, buddy, just go home and go get you something to eat.
Yeah.
Pat me on the back.
Some Ben and
it makes
Jerry's
me feel better, man. It really does. Like I'm a bad emotional eater. If I'm really down, I'm gonna go eat my feelings.
Well, and the thing is also, I'd say with like the cheating meal, like you just consider like like if you want to eat something sometimes, it's like like one of the things I think about doing, like
the more strict people are, the worse the diet gets very quickly.
Right, because even like you're talking about like you're having to cut some weight, and so you might not even be eating that differently, but just because of the fact that you can't have something, now you want them, right? So like when you decide to here's what I always make these deals with myself. I'll say, look, like I do this, on a weekly basis. I'll say, you know what? I really want to have this week. Well, if I do X, Y, and Z, then I get to have this. Right, so I'll say, if let's say you're like, man, I really want to go have a pizza, or I really want to go have ice cream, or I really want whatever your cheat meal, whatever you want. Just go say, okay, well, go earn it. Like throughout the week, say I'm going to train on these days, and then on the Friday or that whatever, like you and your girl, or you and your guy, or you and your friends say, let's go out and let's go eat some good food and enjoy it. You know what I mean? Like, and I like to do it with people. Like for instance, a lot of times it's like date night, or sometimes with friends. Like last week, my cheat meal was up in Wisconsin at the camp. And I had like literally 2 of them, but it was with friends. It was fun. It's like the food's fun. It's enjoyable. And it's not just me eating a tub of ice cream by myself in my underwear.
That does sound good, though, by the way, to do that. Not just me eating it.
Can I tell the Nutella story?
You can tell the Nutella story.
I know that's why you looked at me. What
is this?
It's
Thanks, Joe.
I usually get on and tip you guys every time I'm on here, except the Adam one. I think I was just laughing too hard for the Adam one.
Joe really likes himself. Joe's like, this is a really good one.
I gave everybody money. Everybody should follow my lead.
Man.
No, but so like we're talking about cheat meals, right? This was 2012, 13?
This is 2012.
2012. Mm-hmm. So this is me and Chew been working together for about a year at this point. I was looking for. I don't even remember why I was looking for him, but he was in this back office, and I call it an office because it was a closet that he had a desk in it, so he called it an office.
Now. It was an office.
But I opened the door. He's in his underwear with a spoon and just looks up at me. You can tell he's disgusted with himself. It's like he's not just embarrassed. When you're like, man, I smell. I probably shouldn't go out of the house. It was that type of look. He was eating Nutella with a spoon and just looking in his underwear.
Freaking Nutella smeared all over my face.
He's like, don't judge me. And I was just like,
do you ever put?
So here's what happened. I'd never had Nutella until that year. And I had it, and I was like, "Holy moly, this stuff is delicious!"
It is. I don't like it.
Well,
I
do.
A problem, sir.
But I do.
It's delicious.
That's
the problem.
Peanut butter.
So that was the problem. So I had it, and so I was like, "Ooh, I can't ever have this." Getting Derek, or one of our old business partners, he came in and he put a spoon in it and dropped it on my desk. And I literally just got done training that morning. He drops it on my desk and just runs out. He goes, "Here you go," and I'm like, "Damn it," and I'm sitting there, I'm like, well, just a bite, and then I just keep going.
Then I started messing with him, man. I started putting it in his office at random times.
Everybody started bringing it to the gym.
No, all of it was me every time.
Were you the one doing that?
Mm-hmm.
Oh man,
God, you're an asshole.
I would pay people on days I was like, all right, I'd be like, hey, hussy, tomorrow.
That was really you?
Yeah.
Okay, because we couldn't figure out who it was. I was like the Nutella bandit. Like we had this guy. Like I kept getting Nutella all the time.
One of them had mailed from a friend of mine that lived in California.
That's so crazy. I was one of them. I was one of them.
Just because the first time I mailed it, he was smart enough to track the shipping on it. He's like, no, this was mailed from right up the street. Which one of you guys did it? I was like, okay, I got to think that through next time. So I had a buddy of mine from California mail it out.
Asshole.
All right. Well,
I mean, I went real far. I was like, days I wouldn't even go to the gym. I would pay somebody. I'd usually be Hussy or somebody else to hide it in his office or do something so that he'd be like, it's not Joe. It's happening on days he's not here.
Chew, you want to tell us about this thing real fast? I think your phone's about to die, actually. So
Well, I'm not going to talk too much about it, but I came up with a
Talk
journal.
about it.
I came up with a journal. I'm going to talk to you guys more about it later on. Basically, I made a journal for myself, and I got my printer to make it, and I like it, and so I'm going to share it with everybody here soon. It's basically just creating focus in people's training, because just like that, most people don't have focus in their training; they just kind of go about haphazardly. It's just some simple templates and
Nice.
exercises to do that. It takes about 5 minutes in the morning.
Joe, if people want to get a hold of you, obviously they can get the Grappling Power program through the Jujitsu.net, and you are at averagejoestrength.com.
.com.
And you can follow them online if you want to look for lifting stuff. You can look at
Yeah, I
Average
post,
Joe on YouTube.
Chewy finally talked me into start posting more content on YouTube about a year ago.
It's useful. It's beneficial.
So it's
Touch my shoulders, Chewy.
If you need to find it, guys, it's featured out there on his page. If you go to Jujitsu, it'd be right there on the right. So
Yeah, and then
I think it's on Eugene's too.
Yep.
I got both of them featured
the
on mine.
Jiu-Jitsu Therapist is my YouTube channel, and Joe is on there as well, so you can find him there. That's it.
Thanks, guys.
Thank y'all for tuning in.